Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
associated with the creation
or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked
and sometimes what didn't.
You will also hear very personal experiences
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
and inspire you to do even greater things.
Before we jump into today's conversation, a special thanks to PM Power Consulting for encouraging and supporting this show right from the start. With over 1,000 person-years of collective experience, PM Power has helped many organizations, teams, and individuals chart out their own journeys of excellence and make progress. Thank you, PM Power.
Today, as we are continuing to celebrate International Women's Day, we are in conversation with a stellar leader and my beloved friend, Ponni Krishnamoorthy, Director and Global Head of Telco Cloud in Nokia, where she talks about breaking societal expectation to achieve greater career goals. She shares how she joined as a developer in Siemens Communication Software and continued to work up the management chain. Talks about earning her MBA while working full-time and how she juggled having a child as well as managing expectation at work. She talks about her very unique experience of running digital twins as well as through her M&As and including her story around sanctions during the Iran-Iraq war. Listen on. Hi, Ponni. Welcome to Software People Stories. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hi, Gayatri. It's a privilege for me, of course. It's wonderful to hear from you, and I'm really looking forward to that.
We are doing a series of accomplished women leaders such as yourself for Women's Day celebration in the month of March. At Software People Stories, we've been doing it for about 3-4 years, and we're finding very interesting, very extremely interesting careers that women have led. And wanted to talk to you regarding this. And I know you are a director in Nokia. I would like you to introduce yourself, Ponni. We know as Ponni Krishnamoorthy from NIT Trichy, but how will you introduce yourself for our audience?
Okay. So maybe a very brief thing on my work front, like you already started with, today I'm a director in Nokia, leading an organization, building the test networks, managing the data centers for the R&D world part of Nokia. And of course also even for the customer facing world. That's my job in one line, I would say. The organization is spread across the world. It's a global organization across multiple countries, from east to west, north to south, from Finland to India, and from China to US. We are spread across the world, and it's really interesting and something that I really cherish at work, working in such a global team. If you look at me as a person, as Ponni as such, I was born and brought up in Thanjavur. You may know the temple city in Tamil Nadu. And, probably you can also easily identify this place if I tell you Thanjavur is the main seat of the epic story Ponniyin Selvan.
Correct.
Right? So many people identify that very easily. So by now I have lived most of my life in Bangalore. So, but at the same time, I would say I'm a Thanjavur girl at heart always, So after my schooling from Secretariat Thanjavur, I did my engineering in NIT Trichy. And, those days were those special days, like especially for the ones belonging to the Generation X, who were raised through the society with shifting societal values. That was a time when things were changing, from extremes. And for girls, choosing the engineering career was not so common, but at the same time, it was not also difficult, I would say. It was accepted. It was starting to get accepted at the time. And at least for me, in my family background, I'm the first women engineer, and even for the extended family, I guess I'm the first women engineer. But at the same time, I have to admit, something very funny. I was persuaded quite much to become a teacher or a doctor. I still vividly remember some uncles, trying to convince me, advising me to take up teaching as a profession, simply because they said that's the safest choice and job for women, And the only reason I did not take is not because of this feminism or the women angle to it, but it was more like I'm not cut out for teaching career, simply because I felt that it's really a noble profession, and I'm not cut out for that, And I felt I'm more in terms of, let's say, a little bit selfish. I'm not really made for a teacher role. And on the other hand, medical line was just not my cup of tea. I never enjoyed. Of course, I studied, I scored well in science subjects and so on, but somehow medical job was not something that was really in my liking. Moreover, naturally, I was inclined towards engineering. And particularly if you see cracking math problems, puzzles, or number crunching was my strength. It was quite natural for me. So that's how I kind of made up my mind to go into engineering. And just then the software industry was kind of blooming. I wouldn't say booming that time. It was blooming. And luckily, I had a very good cutoff to enter NIT Trichy as well. And in fact, when I joined, I had this triple E, what we call as triple E, electrical and electronics engineering at first. And then I switched to the computer science engineering, Switching branches was not easy those days. And also we had few seats, unlike these thousands of engineering seats today we have in every other college, right? So it was very few seats, and it was kind of a cherished portion when you get an admission into such a college and such a branch. And I love coding, naturally, because I'm a very analytical person, a logical person. So deriving algorithms and understanding data structures, applying the principles of programming, it was very natural for me, and I really love coding. So through campus placements, and I joined the Siemens Communication Software those days. So even back at work, I was like solving complicated problems with highly efficient algorithms. That was kind of a unique USP for me, I would say. And something my colleagues I used to always appreciate. And I felt I'm going to be the coding guru one day. That was kind of my ambition, there were a few coding gurus those days, the programming gurus, there will be the C++ guru, there will be the C guru and so on. So I really wanted to become like that one day. Now, if I look back, I'm like, how naive I was then, because within 4 years of joining the industry, I joined the corporate world, and then, I realized my interest grew on the techno-management side, keeping a balance between technology and management. And I started drifting very far away from coding. And at another time that I was lucky, I should say at this point of time, because I got admission into the IIMB's postgraduate management program. I don't know if you've heard of this. The IIMB has a postgraduate program, especially for working professionals, and it was very much tailor-made just for the software industry. It was a 2-year plus program like the regular MBAs, except that we work for 4.5 days at office, then we study for 2.5 days. Thank God it was only 7 days per week. Otherwise, they would have found some way of filling the extra day as well. But that was
my husband did that in 1999 to 2002, if I remember correctly.
I was 2001 to 2004 batch.
Oh, really? Okay. IIM used to be a very big Vardhan. That too, they also completely changed the paradigm that you need to go through CAT and you need to go through admission. It was very uniquely structured program to improve the level. Excellent. Go ahead.
And that was a program which was, in fact, it was tailor-made. Many of the content was actually tailor-made for working professionals so that they can directly take what they learned into the job, So that was really very attractive and very productive also for us, very, very useful. And it brought out the grit in me, I would say, more than the principles, what I learned. I would say it really brought out the grit in me and taught me not just the corporate and business world, but also the nuances of management, networking, global roles, and jobs beyond the developing software or coding and product development. What was a typical idea we had, and then this brought in a whole world of saying, this is how industry is and what one can achieve. So that kind of opened the complete world in front of me. And the first 4 years of my career, like I said, was focusing completely on the software development. And most of my searches would be, whenever I want to say like, okay, I want to do something else, always the search was, okay, jump from one prestigious project to prestigious projects, So you are keeping on looking for what is the latest projects, what is, somebody working from C would want to go into C++, and then somebody want to go into Java. So it was like jumping from one project to another, from one programming language to another programming language. And that was like pretty much defining the first 4 or 5 years of the career. And actually, it was quite nascent stage. If you see, until we hit the 2000 year, right? It was still growing stage of software industry, and especially the growth of MNCs. I don't know if you remember, the growth of MNCs happening in Bangalore was at a very fast pace.
I actually moved to an MNC after working for a software company in 2000. I realized suddenly that, in a software company, when you work, you are actually working on projects where somebody gives you a project and you do it. And suddenly when you work in a MNC, I was working for Cisco's systems that time. And it was very unique in terms of you're doing product. It means that it's perpetuity. So you have ownership of something in perpetuity, and perpetuity in terms of timing. And one of the unique things that I found it very different was we had end-to-end ownership. So you not only do product development, you also take customer calls. There were customer mails, and while SLAs were not common that time, but we used to take that huge amount of ownership to say, hey, how fast, right?
Exactly.
Very, very different, right?
Right. Going beyond your call of duty was very normal those days. And that's something that we were always looking forward to. So that was really a very nascent stage, and this growth was unprecedented. And I'm glad to say, I, along with, this batch of engineers those days, we were at the right place at the right time, I think. And, that's, however, was just a stepping stone, that was just giving us just a starting point or a stepping stone. But I strongly feel even then and even today, after a person enters an industry, once they reach the early mid-career kind of thing, it's something that we have to cut out for ourselves, and we have to shape for our future. It all depends on how good we will shape it, for our own dreams or ambitions or goals where it is. So it's just that you get a starting point, which probably came in easy with all this growing industry. Which is also pretty much the same today, I would say, though that would be kind of a little bit at the peaking level, but still the amount of opportunities existing are so much, and it was not very different even then. So after this 5 years of career, as a software developer, technical lead positions, then I slowly got promoted into a software manager role. I would say, though we had this ambition of saying, okay, I want to be something big, I think the exact path was not something, it was very cut out, or somebody gave it on a plate and saying you will go like this. It was just happening on its own. And, at the same time, it also matched, that was a path I defined and pursued for myself. So I was very happy. And then I joined this IIM for this MBA studies. And a blessing, I would say, it was to work full time and study full time at the same time. Such a great journey it was, not just on a professional front, something that I don't share often, but I'd like to share here is on the personal front as well. That's where I met my husband. We got engaged, married. I even delivered my son all within the same studying period, in the same 3 years.
Really? How cool is that?
And then I used to travel across the world from Siemens, because that was also very nice, like it was really juggling. I mean, if you're talking about juggling the balls, that's something that really was a golden period, I would say. Anytime I can sit back and say, I cherish that. So these days, when a young professional asks me if it is difficult to study and work, this is something that I always want to share with them, saying, if you set your heart into something and prepare for it, nothing is difficult. None of this was really difficult that time. It was all happening with ease. It's simply because any challenge that comes, I didn't take the pressure on me as a challenge. It was just like, okay, it happens. We have to find a way to solve it and keep moving.
Yeah. Talking of doing MBA, I did my MBA in Great Lakes Institute. I also did it when I was working full time and had a 3-year-old son. And
Wow.
From
Next
2008
level.
to 2010. So one of the things that very important to acknowledge is that a lot of people came to help, including my parents, my neighbors. I think
Exactly.
as long as you think that you have a support system around and you can bank on them, that is very important, right? It's
Exactly.
you can't do everything on your own. It's extremely difficult to
True.
accomplish.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
So you moved to Nokia after this the stint in Siemens, right?
Yeah, that's another story.
Okay, please.
Whenever I say this, these companies, we have our friends get-togethers, right?
Okay.
People used to ask me, saying that, what is it that you are not changed the company, so that you have not, you have been always in the same company, because I was in Siemens, and Siemens became Nokia Siemens, because there was a merger between Nokia and Siemens.
Okay, got it.
Right? Siemens became Nokia Siemens, and Nokia Siemens became Nokia when Siemens exited.
Okay.
And then and then so it so happened that we acquired Motorola, and then we acquired Alcatel-Lucent. Along with it came the Bell Labs. So it's like I would say today's the company that I'm working with is actually a microcosm of the entire telecom industry. All the star ones. I didn't need to change. The company kept changing. The company reinvented itself so much that I didn't have to go around and look for anything else. It was all coming in one place.
So it means that you would have had a different job profile being in the same company very consistently, right?
Exactly. The culture was different, and we were building the cultures again and again and again. One more funny thing that you won't believe, Gayatri, is, guess what was my MBA thesis project?
It was on telecom mergers?
Telecom mergers, absolutely bang on, I was very interested always in M&A and strategy area. So the finding of my project was, for the Indian market, what would be the M&A scenarios that would happen? And the conclusion I had drawn was that Siemens and Motorola would come together to buy Nokia.
Wow.
And right at the same time, in 2004, is when Nokia and Siemens merged. And it was kind of, I gave this report, presented it, and went for my delivery of my son, came back, and only to see that, it was different. Siemens and Nokia merged, and then a few years down the line, we acquired Motorola as well. So it was not very far from the finding. So that's something that I really always cherish.
Yeah.
So coming back to my career as such, from the MBA studies, during the period of my MBAs also, I was continuously changing on multiple projects. And once I took on this global project lead role, that was kind of a defining moment. It was a unique opportunity to lead projects and people in a global capacity, multiple countries.
Okay.
And that kind of defined my career path as well, because the kind of challenges we faced and also what learnings we had was extraordinary. Especially in one of the projects, there was one of the European countries, East European country was involved. And it was during this Iraq-Iran war, and there were some sanctions placed. So we could not do communication, so we had to find every other innovative way on how, and there were modules which were intertwined. Some modules they had to develop, some modules we had to develop, and we have to merge them, get into the production system as well. So it was, when challenges are coming in front of us, right? When, the kind of ideas we get, the kind of, extra mile that everybody walks is unimaginable. We all really stood up to the challenge, and still we could, I still remember it was Deutsche Telekom those days, to whom we were delivering this project. And they said, yeah, we asked for a plane and we got a rocket from Siemens. That's what, they said.
Who is that?
So that was really very, very nice. And it was a great experience, for us at that point of time. That kind of defined my career path, especially as a global lead, managing people and technology and project as well. So it blended perfectly with my strengths and goals. For about 5 years after that, I was just focusing on learning and becoming the best in what I do, whether it is project delivery, technical management, or, people management, whatever it is. And of course, doing project after project, that was getting stagnated at some point of time.
Yeah. And are you also holding P&L responsibilities as a director in Nokia? How does that, in Ramcharan's view, right? He says multiple levels of leadership where you actually manage people and then you manage people manager. So you are actually manager of managers. And then after that, you own function. And after that, you own function of function. So
Right.
at which level are you right now in your view?
I think that, you kind of defined my path already. Exactly how it happened. It looks like you already had a view to, my journey, and you're just recollecting it here, So that was the time, like I said, project after project was going slowly into a stagnation. And that was a time when I said, I want to grow into roles that gives me a complete responsibility of owning and running an organization unit, a functional unit on its own. And as they say, opportunities actually come to those people who are prepared for it, right? It was not only about preparation. It was not just that I was only prepared, but I was actively seeking for it. I was wishing for it. I was aiming for it, right? So the universe conspires that way. When you want and seek and you do the required preparation, it just comes to you anyway. So similarly, then came an opportunity, and I took over as the head of a unit that built the end-to-end telecom networks, to be used by the entire Nokia Siemens networks, internal R&D groups, and that was again another defining moment for me because, on one side of it, I was a bit unsure because, I've been always creating a whole product and delivering it, it was kind of a delivery satisfaction that you get. And now here you are like, running a whole unit. There's no one single program that you will own, but somebody else will be doing it. And you're only, jumping from one person to one leader to another leader, and you're managing them. So that was something that I was really unsure of. I have to be away from software creation. I have to be away from this product development, kind of aura. And on the other hand, the technology handling in my role was really enticing because you're building the entire end. And luckily, and also very interesting enough, that was an era when the 3G and smartphones were taking over the world, and 4G was just coming in.
Okay.
What more can I ask for? It was, I just plunged into it. And then there was no look back, grew into a role of global lead for the organizations, handling multi-million euro budgets for this, building the test networks across the world. We defined the mode of operation to follow the Sun model, R&D across 17 countries, 20 countries, 40 countries of Nokia, use them remotely, seamlessly, anytime, anywhere kind of infrastructure that you create and run them so that, the R&D engine can run seamlessly. And that's exactly what we do today. So naturally I grew into the roles, building such a central organization for today's, Nokia's business group, one of the business groups, to build and run all the product testing laboratories as well.
Okay.
It kind of grew the scope, try to attract all the peripheral areas or the similar verticals or similar adjacent areas, functions. We were bringing all of them. And at one point of time, I was building this organization running, which was doing this central networks as well as the product laboratories, R&D laboratories, infrastructures across 25 cities and 15 countries, at one point.
Wow.
So really getting overwhelming, I would say. Probably till 2000, somewhere from 2013 to 2018. It was again a golden era, I would say, where a lot of things I learned. The one that I'm running today is actually an offshoot of that as well. And a lot of things to learn globally, culturally, organizationally. The world was going through a lot of changes those days, from 3G we went to 4G, 4G we went to 5G, And it's been a very, very enriching journey, I would say. And today I'm running this central test networks for the research and development needs of various business groups in Nokia. And in fact, in the last 5 years, last period also, grew our scope to include the R&D world's telco cloud data center responsibility as well. So that's kind of, getting the new business, new technologies into the thing for our business group. So keeping alive that part of the, technology. Learning in me as well, right? So I don't want to get out of the technology still, right? There's one arm, one leg onto that always.
Once you're a technologist, you always are. How many ever businesses you run, you always want to keep that closer to your heart. In fact, when you say this, back in 2013 itself, you were actually almost building a digital twin in your testing area, right? In terms of, ensuring that everything is tested, or the right from every level or layer. Of course, with the whole meta now, digital twin is becoming more popular as a term. But you were building that back in 2013. It's amazing. Right. It's amazing to hear, Ponni.
Of course, we have a bit more sophisticated and advanced digital twin, right? So yeah. I would say that was more of the manual precursor version of that. That's what is a trial, more of a trial.
Yeah. And one of the things that when I was listening to you, Ponni, talk about the innovation, right? You were actually, you are in the, forerunner of innovation in terms of before anybody uses 5G, and now billions of people are using 5G, and ensuring that it will stand the test of time and the amount of, data that is going in, everything, right? Yeah, you need to have such a innovation in your own teams. How did you kind of encourage that with your teams?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Something even recently we had a similar topic discussed in our organization on that. So, I'm running a team which is actually building, we take various products and so on, and we build the entire test networks. We look at what are the requirements, customers' requirements, and we build various versions of it. At the same time, keeping up the budget, efficient, optimal, and so on and so forth, infrastructural limitations, and so on and so forth. So when people are so operational, how do we get the innovation mindset in them? So that's very, very challenging question, actually. I have to admit that this was a difficult journey. I would say that was one of the major challenge. People are so much operational. Pulling them out and say, just go have a cup of coffee and think. And then there used to be people, and especially multiple cultures. People from different cultures are very different. Without going into the details, there was one team in one of the countries who were like, I'm doing my job. Why do you want me to think different? You're paying me for this. Why do you want to think different? So really bringing them up to the forte and saying that, hey, you know what? You cannot run at the same pace the world is running, because you're going to go back, because the world is running faster and you need to look forward, really bringing them in terms of the ability. And also at the same time, what was important was many a times we force people to say, innovate. We have to take a step back and see, do we have the ecosystem for them to innovate? Do we have a platform for them? Do we have the right networking? Are people connected enough to think? You might have seen also even Google's in the picture was telling, right? So we give don't look at it as a free lunch or a free food area, but look at a place where people connect to each other and a lot of innovative ideas are moving from there. So you need to give that space, time, place for people to connect together and innovate. And of course, give them support from the technology side. I used to bring people who have already innovated, get them on board. They will give a session on others to think. Whenever you're stuck with a problem, how can you innovate an idea from that? So from an operational team, churning out IPRs every year is not very usual. It was not at all usual. It was considered as a miracle, I would say, in 2015-16 timeframe. Today, my organization is churning out IPRs every year, white papers every year. So that's something that happens over time, and we have to build that culture with them. So, everybody should start feeling that it's not enough for me to do here. And whenever I stuck with a problem, don't solve it, think differently. One more thing which I always tell my team is, and I strongly believe in that, is they say that, problems is the mother of innovation, right? So if there's a mother, there has to be a father, right? So let's look at dreams as a father of innovation, because you can innovate a lot if you're also able to dream. If you're daring to dream big things, you might be able to innovate as well. So don't look at just one angle of looking at only the problems. Try to think big, So there are two steps I always do, two-pronged approach I tell my team. One is innovation is not rocket science. You don't need to always find a space program for that. You can do every incremental thing that you do in your work is innovation. At the same time, dare to dream. Dream big things. Think what is not possible. Think what is not evident. From there, we will get ideas. I was born like that, right? What better example we can have?
I love this. I'm going to borrow this from you, Ponni. Problems marrying dreams. I think it's an easy way to get. And see, also, I know you do a lot of university collaboration. You go to universities, and if I'm not mistaken, you actually represent Nokia in multiple of these forums, right? How did that happen, or was it serendipitously, or you went and wanted to do this part of it?
You got me on that. See, one of the classical challenge we all face, and I faced, is that at some point of time in the mid-career graph, we get this restlessness. We get this feeling of getting stuck. There's my choice of saying that, okay, for the sake of growth, I'm not going to relocate. I'm going to work here. I'm going to be in Bangalore. I'm going to have this place. With that kind of clear parameters I defined for my career, I said, okay, I'm being in the telecom industry. I mean, after decades of telecom experience, I'm not going to jump out into a mobile application or any other industry. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong, but it's just that I defined my path there. But at that point of time, it was also like, you have a glass ceiling. You're getting stuck. So that's the place where I would, what I did, and I will advise everybody also, I would suggest everybody also, is to look beyond your immediate job. As much as we want to learn and grow, try to look at the aspect of giving as well. Giving back. It could be anything. Give back to society, you give back to your university, whatever. Take up some voluntary. It can be technical, it can be non-technical, it can be philanthropic, it can be CSR, whatever forum that's possible for you, that's accepting you, where you find your kick in it. Pick and choose that, and they don't bring that just satisfaction, they actually bring in an immense amount of multifaceted learning for us. That's like another job where you learn so much, and you will be able to actually apply back in your daily job, which is earning you bread and butter. So that's something that I really cherish. Again, thanks to Nokia for giving me that opportunity as well. We built this university collaboration is actually a parallel organization, like a volunteering organization of 100 plus volunteers. We are working across multiple universities, teaching day by day. Our focus is just taking all the latest technologies to the academic corridors of India. But at the same time, I would say, for anyone here and for myself as well, we easily get a mentor, a career champion through these avenues. I think especially everybody, when you're going into the mid-career level, you need really a champion who will play your cause, who will sing for you, right? So it's very easy to get. And this is one of the best networking opportunity when you go into volunteership, tasks. And if you're going into any of these organizations, then that's a very important aspect for everyone's growth. And a champion for the career growth, I would say, you can easily identify when you're volunteering in that case. But the least you can get is, satisfaction, self-satisfaction of giving back something.
I started as a volunteer in Anita B back, I think, correctly, 2015 or 2016. I think one of the, I thought, I'm actually going to be mentoring more people, and I thought it was giving. But what ended up happening was actually it was more enriching for me as a person, because I met so many different people in my walks of life. That sort of triggered different innovation, different skills in terms of, going and meeting people. In fact, the software people stories, that podcast that we are running, is also not for profit. But when I started doing this, I thought it'll be fun to meet people, right? So, for example, understanding somebody's career is one thing, but it also brought a sense of, you lose I have lost my inhibition to go and meet people, different walks of life, asking people, hey, can you appear in my podcast? So otherwise we wouldn't go ask, right?
Right.
Volunteering, sometimes people think that am I going to spend more time on it? It's very cool to say it's actually building a different persona and different satisfaction of existence. So
that's right. And if you can find what interests you, some people may be very good in terms of philanthropic stuff because you have that emotional connect. Then you pick and choose that. For me, since I was so much more on technology and technical aspects, this was very appealing for me. And I always used to say that sales is not my cup of tea. That's why I've never done a sales job, simply because I never liked it. I have a salesman at home. My spouse is a salesman and an entrepreneur, and you know what you face with those guys, right? So I said, okay, I just don't want to do the sales job. But when I took this university collaboration thing, right? When we first went into universities, first of all, we had to knock the doors, and we were not welcomed. And when we went and saying, okay, we are from Nokia, and the first thing they come is with this mobile phone and say, this is a Nokia mobile phone, and the service centers are not there anymore. Such a very tough, difficult question. I had to tell them everything in terms of organization, how companies change, how the corporate have changed, how the world has moved on. Nokia is not doing mobile phones anymore. No, we started from there. And today, people have really, established and understand that Nokia is something else and that we are the infrastructure business. I give a pat for myself at my back and saying, hey, not bad. You have done a sales job as after all.
Yeah, you have to sell your own brand.
Exactly.
In every point in time, Ponni. I am enjoying this conversation as much, but I know we are short of time. Any final words that you want to share with our audience, Ponni? Any pearls of wisdom?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you really see the audience, especially the younger ones, I think if you're looking at the senior ones, they would have seen it all, right? So I strongly believe that the next decade is going to be kind of a rapid paradigm shift, because we are seeing the level of technological advances we have seen through the last 3 decades. And what used to be an incremental advances are now in no time, from my own industry, if I take telecommunications, 3G to 4G happened over 10 years, 4G to 5G happened over 5 years, 5G to 6G will be much faster. And the world got these technologies 5 years ahead of us. India was always lagging, but we are now determined to get it the same day when the world gets it. So it's kind of really a very different world that we are living in. And be it information technology field, communication industry, automotive, health industry, I think these boundaries are starting to blur nowadays. So don't try to have a very rigid kind of thinking in terms of the industry and the opportunities. People who are really seeking, try to look at, parallels, verticals, I would say. But all of them, young and mid-career alike, one advice I would always say, I'm sure this is a very, done and dusted topic, but still I would touch upon is look at horizontal, the way you need to learn multiple aspects of business. It's not just about people management. It's not just about technological stuff or hands-on doing. It's also about so many other things, finance, strategy, organization. You might have to dissolve organization. You have to create organization, mergers and acquisition handling, task forces handling, all of this you'll have to deal with. You'll have to deal with probably the government interfaces. You have to really learn all of this. So look at horizontal learning is my simple take I would advise everybody, or I would suggest everybody. And of course, other thing is like, my own favorite thing, which is dare to dream. When I say this, I want to always give this, kind of a disclaimer as well. Unlike our world, we did not have the world information at our fingertips. We grew organically within an organization and through our interfaces. We always were cautious about the move that we were making and so on and so forth. But today's younger generation, the Gen Z or Gen Alpha or Gen Y, they have not seen a world without internet. They're born and brought up with that. They observe, think, learn, everything. The whole world they observe from their reading room. They don't need to step out at all, right?
Yes.
So that's a very different benefit that they are having. So I truly believe that this next generation, whether they are in the academic corridors or in their career journey that they've started, they have to go beyond the traditional ways to nurture themselves, because their world is very different. So don't look at the traditional learning. Look at how to make your hands dirty. Learn by doing. It's not always what they see from the internet. They have to really feel for it and learn, right? So that's something that I would always recommend. And we also need to create a platform where they can be heard clearer than we were, and where they can have a platform empowering, so that they can figure out their own goals and define a path to reach that by themselves, right? So that's where I say dare to dream. Look at something very big always. Don't go this incremental way, because given the kind of technological advances we have, there is no limit of what humankind can achieve. We can imagine anything, and they're actually redefining things, and new companies are born. New industries are born from this. So I think, who knows, many of these Gen Zs are going to create that many industries as possible as well. And the last is, of course, build your network. As much as internet has brought the information to their fingertips, I also have a feeling that people are, I don't want to say the traditional way of saying people are stuck to their mobiles or hooked onto their mobiles. It's not that, but I think seeking that networking, build your network, identify your career champion within your company or outside the company even. For that is where this kind of volunteering, professional bodies and all that will help. So building your network and, finding your mentors and champions are very important for, the audiences and anybody in the technological career, at least. This is very, very important. And finally, one parting thought is, as much as, like I said, build your horizontal career path, don't rush through this journey. I know it's a very, very boring old saying to say, don't sprint a marathon, but that is what many are trying to do. The learning is completely lost in the journey. When they jump from one to another, there is no connectivity in what they're not able to take what they learn to the next step. And in this, even unless you really practice something, what you learn, they are just lost, So that's something that people have to look at. You choose technology, you choose a domain, or you choose the industry, or you choose your discipline, whether it's going to be sales or product development, but then master it, learn through it, and grow in that, rather than jumping from one to another just for the sake of short-term growths.
Correct.
The short-term growth part comes with the expiry date. That's what I tell my guys.
Absolutely. I think the patience, right? Unless you are patient, patience actually gives lots of rewards, multifold. So
very much true. Very true.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your time, Ponni. I appreciate it. And it's such a fantastic journey. I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy listening to you, and wish you all the very best for your
Thank you, guys.
more and more
so
coming from you.
Thank you so much.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
please subscribe on your favorite podcast client
and spread the word in your network.
If you'd like to share your story,
contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.